my dear colleagues, I'm Shigeto from Taipei. I'm the chair of the local organizing committee of the CINP 2020 in Taipei. So you are all welcome to this lovely country and join us to have this important meeting. So now we have the third topic about suicide. As we know, that suicide prevention is the main theme of the World Mental Health Day this year. And suicide is also universal along every countries, but for some special disorders, they may have more higher suicide rate. So Dr. Kim, will you introduce your study regarding the adolescent, especially with ADHD?
Right. I'm talking about my recent epidemiological study about the adolescent ADHD and suicide association. We have conducted in recent 3 years. We directly interviewed with adolescents with their parents by using DISC. DISC is the diagnostic interview schedule for children and adolescents.
Okay.
It's very highly structured and 1.5 hours time is consuming for each patient. It's very kind of labor-intensive work actually. During the study, we have found that from more than 1,000 adolescent students from ordinary junior high and high school in Seoul and Goyang and Jeju Island area, we have collected more than 1,000 adolescents' data about their suicidal behavior and suicidal planning and suicidal attempt and non-suicidal self-injurious behavior. And then we analyzed their ADHD diagnostic status. When we compare ADHD diagnostic group in adolescents and versus non-ADHD normal adolescents group, when we analyzed the suicidal behavior between two groups, we have found that suicidal idea is a double fault in ADHD group. The suicidal behavior, like intention, planning, and attempt, is more than 6-fold compared to non-ADHD adolescents. That means suicidal idea is also higher in ADHD adolescents. The big issues in suicide is the real acting out of their idea and plan. That kinds of acting out behavior with suicidal related issues is a very higher prevalent in ADHD adolescents groups. So for the suicide prevention in adolescents, clinician must be very aware of ADHD status in each suicidal adolescents, because if they have the ADHD symptoms, they can be more impulsive and more isolated by school bullying, so something like psychosocial issues, and more tension between their parents also. So they got very little help from caregivers and teachers and peers. So more isolated and more vulnerable to act out their suicidal ideas and planning. So it's very cautious. And also, in addition to the awareness, we have to make more comprehensive treatment of ADHD to prevent suicidal behavior. ADHD treatment is very not so complicated. As you know, the pharmacotherapy for ADHD is nowadays well developed by non-stimulant and stimulant. We have many kinds of other psychosocial cognitive behavior therapies. So such a effort to manage their impulse control and behavior control using pharmacotherapy and non-pharmacotherapy, we can make their more safe even they have a suicidal idea. So it is very important to step forward to prevent their suicidal the kind of tragedy in adolescents, I think.
Yeah, suicide is a very important issue all over the world. And as I know, there's video games developed for the ADHD treatment.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have any opinion about this?
My second study is regarding ADHD, is adulthood ADHD, related with internet game addictions. We have 400 adults who have visited the ADHD clinic. We have analyzed the two groups. One is the IGD with ADHD. The other group is IGD only. We have found that adults with ADHD have a more severe internet addiction symptoms and more higher relapse rate through the 3-year follow-up. So ADHD management in adulthood is very crucial to prevent and reduce the internet game problems. So it is very important, I think.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
So regarding the prevention, is there any medication that can be used for a patient has already suicide attempt? And then what kind of drugs we can apply? And we know that clozapine has been used in the suicide, but that's for schizophrenia. Yeah. And now ketamine has been developed for the suicide ideation or attempt in the major depression. But I think for the ADHD or for general population, suicide prevention using medication is still very difficult or very far away. What is your opinion?
Yeah, as suicide is in Japan, as suicide is also serious problem in our generation, as from young, recently younger generation, and the rate of suicide is increasing. But it used to be as a middle age class is so-called typical depressed patient for more responsibility and more stressful. But nowadays is a different pattern to the senior elderly people is getting alone, no support.
Yes.
And then there another reason to the no meaning to live long alone.
Yeah.
And then and also middle age, too much stress, too much competition. But younger generation is like ADHD, like a different aspect. Not so easy to prevent. Not simply is the same story, but final as he said is as a suitor acting out. So finally is every different reason, but finally decided to suicide. So I'm not sure this kind of what kind of drug is effective, but it's not so easy. Yeah, but especially in Asia, as suicide rate is increasing. Is because of globalization, and as a developing country is getting information for the internet, they're eager to more challenging. It's one aspect is good, but some is always competing, and then to globalization is their own quiet culture destroy. So that's why it's even in Asian countries, I'm afraid to increase more. So, but we should not only the drug treatment, but also some internet or ICT technology, more convenient but more isolated. Right. Inside. There's no communication, no direct face-to-face communication. So that's why we psychiatrists to alert this kind of the more communicate each other, face-to-face communication important. But this is an education issue of in small elementary school or something. Yeah, it's very complicated. Yes, it is.
From the American data, the SNS-based cyberbullying is very predominant nowadays.
Cyberbullying, right.
Cyberbullying is a very intensive, very long-standing, faceless cyberbullying is also very strong impact to the adolescents, the mental health. Usually, cyberspace, many adolescents participate in the SNS usually right now. So why adolescent suicide increase? One of the reasons is the cyberbullying among adolescents. That's key issues.
Same in Japan. Yes.
Yeah, I think the most important regarding suicide is the awareness. Is the awareness of this child, this person. Then you have social support, and then you have other strategy. Not only the medication, but I think social support is very important. And so we psychiatrists should not only prescribe drugs, and also we have do other counseling, psychotherapy, and with other our area professionals to have suicide prevention. I think this year is the suicide prevention is the mental health theme. So I think we all have to devote to these major problems.
Now you are discussing social aspect of increased rate of suicide in ADHD patients, but how about the biological aspect? There could be some biological mechanisms which may increase suicide rate in ADHD patients, right? Impulsivity control.
Right. For the adolescent group especially, the suicidal rate is increasing from childhood period. It's because of adolescent brain is more vulnerable to control their negative emotion and their impulse to acting out. That kinds of more vulnerable status of their brain, especially in prefrontal cortex, the apoptosis and also the pruning process there. So that kinds of biological mechanism underlying the suicidal behavioral increasement in adolescents. That is very similar to ADHD pathophysiology actually. If someone have ADHD problem, their prefrontal cortex function is lower than normal.
Prefrontal cortex functions.
Maybe.
To control, inhibitory control of emotion.
That's the reason of the
current medication of ADHD, as far as I know, it's common to use stimulant like methylphenidate or amphetamine, right? Those are drugs. What kind of effect do those drugs have on prefrontal cortex? It may not have a good effect on prefrontal cortex. Right?
It's quite effective to the response inhibition and also some higher cortical executive function of prefrontal
inhibition.
Yes. So it can be controlled. It can control the impulsive symptoms and or some kind of a lower functioning of executive function of prefrontal cortex, so it can help them to stop their behavior.
So you think current medication may have some positive effect on suicide?
We expect that. But there's not so many evidence, as a professor said that. We have to go. We can accumulate the research products. Nowadays.
In another aspect, we psychiatrists should to alert to the industrial company, especially as a GAFA, for the to SNS promotion. It's a good business, but some as a negative impact for especially for adolescents, it's a growing. The brain is just growing up, and so we should more responsible for such kind of the proposed should consider to the brain development And also some smartphone should it addicted. Some alert is your brain is
education on how to use the internet will be very important, especially in younger generation.
Right.
I think because time we can close here. And thank you for you join us for the Asia panel discussion. And hope we have the next meeting in Taipei, and also have another Asia panel.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You.